Welcome to Diversity Xtra with your host, Don Mckneely.
And hello, everybody. I'm Don Mckneely, and thank you for joining us today on Diversity Xtra, where we tell your story. Our guest on the program today is Terri Quinton. Terri is the CEO of Q2 Marketing and ADP LLC. Terri, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Don. Happy to be here.
Let me share a little bit about your background with our audience, Terri, so they'll have a feel for what you do and who you are and from whence you've come. Terri, as I'd mentioned, is the founder and CEO of Q2 Marketing Group, an award-winning marketing agency focused on helping small and mid-sized businesses accelerate their business growth. Former National Minority Business Enterprise Input Committee Chair for the National Minority Supply Development Council. And Terri was first elected female to hold that position. Terri also is the author of a new book entitled Give Me G.R.I.T.S, Girls Raised Intentionally to Succeed. It's going to be a great book, and we're looking forward to talking to you about that, Terri. Terri also has had a lot of corporate experience as the highest-ranking African-American female out of 70,000 employees at Southwestern Bell Telephone Company. Originally from Kansas, a graduate of Kansas State University with a degree in computer science and an MBA from Southern Illinois University. Terri has received numerous awards and highlighted accolades for her involvement in the women business community as well as the minority business community. Terri was inducted into the Women's Business Enterprise Hall of Fame recently, and we're certainly happy to have Terri as a part of the program today. Terri, thanks again for coming.
Thank you, Don. I'm happy to be here and appreciate you asking me.
Well, Terri, let's do this. Let's talk a bit about your early years, maybe some of the things that you did professionally before you started your business. Can we talk to that a bit?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Right out of college, I was recruited to work for Southwestern Bell Telephone Company in Wichita, Kansas. I have a computer science degree, so I spent some time in the data center. Very techie, actually, and spent most of my career with Bell on a fast track. So I spent time in the data center, eventually got moved to headquarters and worked for the comptroller's staff, back into the data center, and then eventually they moved me over to marketing, where I found out I could talk to real people and found that really fun. So while I was working in marketing, I went back and got my master's. So Southwestern Bell proved to be a great training ground, provided great and excellent work. I know in one of my assignments I worked as a product manager and hated the job at the time, but it has been the savior for me because it taught me how to collaborate even when you're not accountable and when you're not have responsibility to force people to do what you want. You had to kind of play nice. So I learned how to play nice.
So how long were you with Southwestern Bell, Terri?
I was there 13 years.
13 years.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
When you left Southwestern Bell, what was the next step after that?
Well, myself and two other gentlemen had an opportunity to leave Southwestern Bell and form our own telecommunications company. We had some expertise in an area of the telecommunications world. One of them happened to know some investors, and we stepped out of Bell with money already in the bank, helping us start a brand new telecommunications company where we installed and repaired a lot of telecommunications equipment. I thought that's how business really worked, that if you were going to be an entrepreneur, you start with somebody giving you some money and then you go do what you're an expert at doing. So that's how I came out of Bell, and it was a joyous experience. We did that for about 5 or 6 years.
So was there a real motivation to pursue entrepreneurship versus going into another corporation after you left Southwestern Bell?
Well, actually, I had no plans in my life to really leave the corporate America. An opportunity was presented, and I thought, well, this is a great opportunity. My parents thought I was crazy, but I didn't see much risk. I would make as much money. I'd own part of a company. I could live anywhere in the country I wanted to live. We chose Dallas because of its entrepreneurial environment. We knew the weather was really nice, and so the three of us moved our families here to Dallas, and I've never regretted that. I love Dallas.
Well, thank you for coming to Dallas. We all love Dallas. Dallas is a great place. Terri, let's do this. Talk a bit about the journey as you begin to work to build a business, to start up your business, and some of the midpoint things that you worked with and what have you. So can you talk about the startup journey, how that went for you?
Sure. So once I was out of the telecommunications company, I kind of just sat around and did nothing for a little bit and tried to figure out what I wanted to do and ended up starting a business from scratch. And what I found in starting that business from scratch is a whole different world than starting a business with investor money. So myself and my husband at the time created a company that developed and wrote newsletters for apartment communities all across the country. My sales team from the telecommunications world came over and helped me sell into that company. And then I ended up growing that company, and because printers couldn't keep up with the pace and the deadlines that I had, we ended up bringing printing in-house. That has stuck with me even today. So I know a lot about printing. So,
as you talk about the journey and, talk about maybe some of the middle periods there, where are you now with the new business? How's that developing and coming along for you?
So, I still have a print. ADP LLC is a print management company, and we still manage some contracts and do printing. I have a partner in that, Patricia Rodriguez Christian. While we still do that, that's really printing is, never been my love. I've always liked talking to people, and I love marketing, and found out I had real skills in that area. So in 2014, after I stepped down from being the national chair for NMS, for the National Minority Supplier Development Council's Minority Input Committee, that's a mouthful, I decided to do what I like doing, which is marketing. And so Q2 Marketing Group was really formed and realized. And because I had spent so much time meeting minority businesses from around the country and saw the challenges that they had and just the passion that they had, I thought I could help. So I really focused Q2 Marketing Group on small, mid-sized companies and looking at how we can help them grow. That's our emphasis.
Well, as you were working to build your company, Terri, were there any mentors that you worked with that maybe helped you in some way, with guidance, direction, support, moral support, and this type thing? Did that help?
Sure. I would say I always, Don, have kind of surrounded myself with people who were more exactly like me. Whether that's culturally or in terms of their abilities. I would give Margot J. Posey, the president of Dallas-Fort Worth Minority Supplier Development Council, props for telling me everything and teaching me everything I needed to know about diversity. Even though I'm a black female who navigated in corporate America, I really never came up across diversity, especially supplier diversity. I was always in the profit and loss side. So I really didn't understand the diversity and why that even mattered and why you should care that I'm a minority or woman-owned company. If I had a good product and service, you should want to do business with me. I learned from the council and from Margot that there was this whole world out there called supplier diversity, and I learned a lot about it. So kind of have learned to navigate at that. So she's been a mentor. On the business side, I've surrounded myself with people who have been successful in their businesses, and I have a number of them who are clients and as well as mentors because they've built some successful businesses, so I can ask things related to financing and just growth and challenges. So I I talk with people all the time, but I kind of have a mini advisory group.
Exactly. So mentoring is really proven to be key for a success of a minority and woman-owned business, if you will. Speaking of successes and success paths, generally, it's said that most successful businesses have had defining moments in their business. And as you look back, was there maybe any one defining moment that sticks out that you could say, well, this really made the difference in where I am today in terms of my success path or what I've accomplished, this kind of thing relative to your business?
Well, I would say that back a little bit to mentors. My mother was probably my biggest cheerleader and booster and mentor, and even though she didn't have a corporate job, and she worked, but she never was a manager. I learned a lot from her and gained a lot of confidence from her. So in terms of the overall direction and what I wanted to do, probably leaving Bell was one of those defining moments. Probably the second one was creating Q2 Marketing Group, because up until then I'd spent time working with and in partnerships with other people. And Q2 Marketing, I just knew in my own mind and soul that I wanted to do something that I enjoyed doing. And that company came to fruition. And when I found my very first customer, a serious customer, was Betty Minetta with Argent Associates. She's a multi-million-dollar tech company. And I was amazed that she was interested in me helping her market. But what I soon found out was that I was really good at taking technical information and turning it into English and helping people define a strategy on how to talk to their marketplace. So while you might be really good at how to build a clock, that's not what sells the clock. So after that, it has grown just from referrals of people having faith that I actually knew what I was talking about, and then having the ability to find people to help me do it.
Terri, you mentioned Margot Posey and the Dallas-Fort Worth Minority Supplier Development Council. Can you tell me a bit about that relationship and, what does the council do and how has that helped your business grow?
So the council has been an important part of my life, the Dallas-Fort Worth Minority Supplier Development Council. I originally joined the council to give back. I thought I really wasn't looking for business. I was really I was trained, I had a lot of skills. I was interested in developing just a network of people to know in the city of Dallas because I lived in the world of telecommunications prior to that and really hadn't spent much time learning and meeting people in Dallas. But what I found out when I got into the council is a whole new world. And it provides great benefits for businesses, minority businesses, the Women's Council for Women Business. Not only do you go through a process to get certified to be that you are in fact own and operate a minority or woman-owned business, but what's unique about these two organizations is they hold events, they hold training, they actually put you in front of potential suppliers or clients, and therefore you have an opportunity that maybe you didn't think you would have had otherwise.
As you talk about the council, are there any special requirements for membership into the council? So if I'm a business owner and I'm not part of the council, what do I need to do? If it makes any sense for me to join, what do I do? How do I get involved with the council?
Well, one, if you meet the criteria and you're not part of the council, then you're missing out on how to grow your business. But generally, you have to be 51% owned and operated by a minority on the minority side and by a woman on the women's side. So it doesn't have to just be a single minority. It could be a group of minorities, but it still has to be owned and operated. And the councils both go through very strict certification processes, which include site visits to make sure that you meet those criteria. One of the things that's a real stickler for most people is, including me, but I do it anyway, is you got to provide your tax returns. So there's no secrets. that the information is kept well guarded and secure by the councils. But there are some prerequisites you have to go through, and you have to certify each year. But you recertify. The recertification process is much easier.
So as you talk about certification, Terri, and you mentioned the Dallas-Fort Worth Minority Business Development Council and the women's organization. Now, there's a women's organization that does the same thing as a council, basically. Is that
Yes. Locally there is. And both of these organizations are part of national networks. So in the case of the Dallas-Fort Worth Minority Supplier Development Council, they're part of a national Supplier Development Council network of 23 total councils. And Women's Business Council Southwest, which is the local council for women here, is part of the WeBank Council nationally, and there's, I think, 14 of those councils around the nation. So the advantage is not only can you be a part of these councils locally, but if you're interested in growing your business regionally or nationally, there's plenty of opportunity to do that.
Well, and as you talk about the advantages and benefits, can you expand on that a little bit? How does
Sure.
that process work? In other words, so if I come in and become a member of the council and get certified and what have you, can I maybe have a certain expectation of getting business, or how does that work? Just to understand that a little bit.
I usually like to explain it like going to college or high school. You go, you get a diploma. That diploma is not worth 2 cents if you don't go out and look for a job and make an effort to talk to people to get that job. So certification is the same way. It will get you a piece of paper that says I'm certified. And there are corporations out there and public sector agencies that want to do business with minority businesses and women-owned businesses. So it'll give you an opportunity to meet them and talk to them about what you do. But if you don't have a good business or a good business plan, then it's probably not going to get you very far. And if you're not willing to actually put yourself out there and market your business, then it's not going to get you very far. What it gives you is access that you couldn't get otherwise. But if you don't use that access, then shame on you.
Absolutely. Terri, you mentioned on the national level, I believe the National Minority Supplier Development Council, and looking at your background, you actually served for 6 years on the national organization, representing over 16,000 minority-owned businesses as a part of that national organization. What were some of the things you learned from that leadership experience?
Well, one of the first things I learned was that there is a huge misconception, both in corporate America and across this nation, about what a minority business is. Over and over, I heard about minority businesses being small, needing development, all the things that we are supposedly not able to do. Yet when I traveled and when I met people, I met some extraordinary business owners who worked just like every other business owner and had businesses that did business in NMSDC, but also did business outside of that network, because that's how you really do business. So my role, I viewed more as trying to get people to understand that minority businesses, like every other business, comes in a lot of different sizes and flavors, but that they are capable, and that in most cases what is needed is the opportunity to actually do business. I won't say contract, because some cases it may just be an initial transaction that grows to a contractual effort. That's what most people will tell you anyway. But I personally get very tired of hearing about minority businesses in particular needing development. I think they just need an opportunity.
Terri, as we talk about minority business, what do you see as the biggest challenge for minority-owned businesses today?
Well, I think part of the challenge is just being called minority. That's a challenge in itself. I used to laugh and tell people that I didn't know I was diverse until I got part of this this council, and I had been done a lot of business before that happened, successful business. So I think part of it is getting people to understand the success stories that exist and what minority businesses actually are and what they do, and they do about everything. That's a big challenge. The other big challenge is, I believe, people have to look outside the minority label. Minority businesses have to look outside the minority label to do business and really pay attention to the opportunities that exist with technology today. Because even though technology sounds like a big word, it really does touch everything we do, whether it's, the watches we're wearing, the phones we use, our health records, whatever. And there's opportunity in that to be in business. If we just look at those opportunities, that's what an entrepreneur really does.
Many of the corporations now have supplier diversity programs, and they seem to be growing. What do you see as a challenge for these programs today, and what does the future supply chain environment look like?
Well, I kind of go back to the history a little bit, because I have studied up on the history of supplier diversity, and the history was designed to help grow and improve communities, and in particular the underserved communities of this nation. And so what I would hope supplier diversity programs would re-look at is what impact are they having really within the communities. I think sometimes supplier diversity programs are so focused on spend and how much that gets spent that they don't always look to see, well, how many jobs did I employ or help create? How have I improved this community? Because you can get spent by giving dollars to one big, large company who may or may not use minority businesses. So I think the challenge is to make the focus more about impact on the community and less about spend.
As we talk about minority and women-owned business, I know that you have worked at really emphasizing and helping to promote women-owned business and women of color in the business sector. And so what would you like to see happen, and what would you like to see come about to help women of color grow their businesses?
I think women of color, it's a unique area, just like veterans, just like LGBT, you pick it. But women of color are one of the fastest growing segments of small business in this nation. They often create businesses that are more socially responsible than perhaps other organizations, and therefore their revenues don't always tie to very big revenue streams. What I'd like to see, everybody's using women of color kind of like we used to just a year ago, say innovation, innovation, innovation. Well, now I hear a lot of women of color, women of color, women of color, because it is a challenge. And there's a lot of outreach going on, but I'd like to see some results happen. I think there's opportunities to do focused matchmakers with women of color businesses. I think there's opportunities to do more than what we're doing today to encourage women of color to grow their businesses bigger than they are.
Speaking of women of color and women in business, you recently wrote a book about mothers and their daughters. Can you tell the audience a bit about the book and how it came about?
Sure. This is it. It's called Give Me G.R.I.T.S, Girls Raised Intentionally to Succeed. I started this book several years ago, actually, in honor of my mother, because I think I'm very much like her. She's passed away, but a lot of who I am, fiercely independent, very opinionated, I think comes from her, a little 5-foot lady. And I began talking to some of my friends and about their mothers. And so the book is really kind of my take on listening to 25 of my closest friends and stories about their mothers and some of the lessons they've learned. And what I found in interviewing them is they didn't always realize the lessons they'd learned from their mothers. But after I heard about the mothers, I could kind of make a correlation that maybe they didn't make. So the book covers those stories, but it ends with some things that I think are important for everybody as to if you want to lead a successful life, if you want to have a a successful business, here are some tips. Each of these stories I find amazing, and most of these mothers sacrificed a lot to make these daughters successful, and the daughters may not have realized it at the time. I certainly didn't, but going back and reflecting, I truly am blessed.
Well, it certainly sounds like a great book. I'm looking forward to reading the book. Again, Grits, Girls Raised Intentionally to Success and Succeed. And so how can the book be gotten, Terri? It's available now? Is it on the market now?
No, it actually will be on the market May 1st.
Okay.
And we have a website, givemegrits.com.
Okay.
It is not available. I'm not sure I will make it available on Amazon. I have some issues with Amazon. I kind of am one of these that believe in buying from those who support minority and women-owned businesses, and I don't see Amazon doing as much of that as I'd like. Anyway, that's my personal, opinion. I'm full of them. But it is available on givemegrits.com. You can pre-order today, but that's kind of it.
Okay, well, if someone wanted to get in touch with you about your business, Q2 Marketing and ADP LLC, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Probably the easiest is really by my email, Terri, Terri, at q2marketinggroup.com.
Well, Terri, I think we're just about out of time. I've really enjoyed visiting with you, and thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Don. I thank you for asking me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to our audience, we appreciate you all joining us on the program today. Be sure to tune in next time for the segment on Diversity Xtra. You can catch us on YouTube, Facebook, and your favorite social media platform. Have a great time. Until the next time, Diversity Xtra, where we tell your story.